One of the quirks of the NBA schedule is that sometimes you'll get to play the same team twice in consecutive nights or twice in a 3-day stretch, and that's just the way it goes. So if you lost to them the first time, you got a chance to get revenge. If you beat them the first time, you got to hope that you could beat them a second go-round. So it's not the easiest thing in the world to do, but that's the situation that faced the Bulls Wednesday night as they took on the Atlanta Hawks. First thing I want to call out here, it was fantastic to see and hear Stacey King back on commentary. I know there are some Bulls fans that take shit too seriously, that say he doesn't do much analysis. Fuck that. Stacey King is fantastic. Stacey King is awesome. I'd put Stacey King up there in terms of NBA team color commentators. I'd put him up against anybody. He's fantastic. He brings energy, enthusiasm, personality, all things you actually want and need to make a broadcast that much better. So it was great to see him and Adam Amin back together. They are a fantastic duo for however long we're ultimately going to have them in Chicago. And on that note, not only was Stacey King back, but here are the Bulls trying to beat Atlanta again for the second time in 3 days with a chance to get their 5th consecutive victory for the first time since, I believe, December of 2017. So another good threshold, a good mark that they were trying to tackle on Wednesday night. And in the first quarter, it was a high-scoring affair for sure. The Bulls were up 38-36 after one, with Javonte Green starting and getting 8 points. He was actually leading the way in scoring. His energy level was fantastic in this matchup, and it was critical. And I also like the fact that Chris Fleming adjusted and realized, no, I can't have Kobe White defending Trae Young all the time. That doesn't make sense. At least allow Javonte Green in his strength, his physicality, the style of play that he has on defense, the fact he's a much better defender. Let's put him on Trae Young and cause him a little more problems. Zach LaVine had 7, DeMar DeRozan had 6. Meanwhile, for the Hawks, Trae Young had 9 and Malcolm Hill had 8. The Bulls shot 72% in the first quarter, which is both a measurement of some of the good, easy baskets they were getting, some of the good open shots they were hitting, and also a reflection of Atlanta's defense is terrible. This is a depleted Atlanta team you were taking on Wednesday night, missing a lot of key cogs, but this team sucks defensively. They are just abysmal. So I take some of the good numbers here for the Bulls offensively on Wednesday night, and I take it with a little bit of a grain of salt. But I will say this, is that the Bulls offense continued to roll in that second quarter. Chicago ended up shooting almost 70% from the field in the first half. Almost 70% from the field. I don't give a damn who you're playing. You shoot almost 70% from the field, you're probably going to beat just about anybody. So it's no surprise that whereas Atlanta was struggling a little bit more on the offensive end, the Bulls were just cruising, rocking, and rolling. They were up big, 74-53 at the half. Zach LaVine had 15 to lead all scorers for Chicago. Javonte Green with 12. You had DeMar DeRozan and Io with 10 each. And then, even in that first half, you have Tyler Cook making contributions. That was fascinating watching Tyler Cook in this game. I sat there and thought to myself and tweeted this during the game, is how the hell did Alize Johnson and Tony Bradley Jr. get minutes over Tyler Cook? I'm assuming that's something that's going to be rectified going forward because you could see some of the life that Tyler Cook brings. My goodness. Meanwhile, for the Hawks, Trae Young, I did have 14 points, but he was only 5 of 13 for the field. So, yes, he was jacking up some 30-foot threes, but those are the only two threes he hit the entire night. He was struggling to get his shots off. He was struggling to get easy buckets. The Bulls made him work much better on the offensive end Wednesday night as compared to Monday night, especially early on in that game on Monday. Malcolm Hill had 17 for the Hawks. Atlanta only shot 41% from the field for the half. So, while the Bulls are missing some key cogs on their defense, they still did a good job defensively against Atlanta in the first half, and they just weren't hitting their shots. Cam Reddish wasn't nearly the same as he was on Monday night. My one hope was that in this third quarter that the Bulls were going to come out and put the Hawks away. Like, this is a wounded bird. Let's put them out of their misery. And it looked like early on the Bulls were going to do that. They were up 27 at one point, but then Atlanta got in a little bit of a rhythm, closed it to 17. So Chicago, while they were up at the end of 3, 104-87, I felt pretty good about where they were at heading into the fourth, but there was also a little bit of concern of, the Hawks haven't shot the ball very well. The Bulls have shot it overall in this game at a much higher clip. What happens if the Bulls regress at all and Atlanta starts hitting some shots? Like, this game is not over yet. And still, these are the types of games that you want them to bury somebody while they can. especially when you're allowing Clint Capella to get 12 points in the quarter. Trae Young had 10. It was just one of those things where you say, ugh. You know, while it's a big lead, it was heading in the wrong direction. But to their credit, the Bulls were able to kind of stem the tide, even though the Hawks got it down to single digits a couple of times. They just didn't have enough to overcome the Bulls, who ultimately won this game 131 to 117. So Chicago gets its 5th win in a row, and they sit one game as of this moment behind the Brooklyn Nets for first place in the Eastern Conference. What a great place to be heading into the new year, huh? I'm telling you, right? Zach LaVine led the way for the Bulls with 25 points. DeMar DeRozan with 20. Vucevic with a big night himself, 16 points and 20 rebounds. So he played well. Kobe White came out and he played well in the third quarter. He had 17 points and 12 assists. A good performance for him, although I still, again, would say he's better in doses. And when you're going to talk about like the 17 points, that's great. But look at the number of shots. Didn't he have to take like 14 shots to get that shit? Meanwhile, Ayo Dosunmu had 14 points and he only had to take 7 shots. Javonte Green got 14 points on only 5 shots because he was aggressive, he was slashing, he was getting to the hoop, he was getting to the free throw line. So the context matters here. If you could give Ayo the same number of damn minutes that you gave Kobe White, this team would be better off for it. And his coaching staff has to stop being so fucking stubborn about it. I am heartened that Kobe White is playing a little better. But you have to customize things for Kobe more where Ayo could get his shit within the flow of the offense. Things can kind of grind to a halt when you're trying to get Kobe his. Hurry up, drive up his trade value, and get him the fuck out of Chicago is all I got to say. Bulls, though, great offensive performance against a bad Atlanta defense. They shot 62% from the field. For Atlanta, Trae Young led the Hawks to 26 points, but only had 2 in the fourth quarter, so he wasn't much of a factor there. Clint Capella had 18 points and 15 rebounds. Shondae Brown Jr. had 16. But the Hawks are decimated. They just didn't have enough. And even though the Bulls were wounded themselves, you know, they still had their big three of LaVine and DeRozan and Vucevic all did enough on this night to help the Bulls win comfortably. And you know, you got to feel good about this result. Like I said, sometimes it can be tough to beat a team a couple of nights after you just played them because you're going to wake that team up. They're going to be motivated. And that didn't happen here. Like, they played even better in this game. And what's really impressive about this Bulls team right now is that they have been navigating some of the impacts of COVID as well or better than any team out there. That's a good harbinger for things to come the rest of the way. It's also a good harbinger for things to come the rest of this season in that the Bulls could beat you in multiple ways. They could beat you D'ing you up and playing a slower tempo game. They can also win by scoring 125 and 130 points, like they've done here the last 2 games against the Hawks. Sometimes you're going to have to play the more defensive style, and sometimes you're just going to have to outscore others. And you're just going to have to run, and you're going to have to shoot, and you're going to have to hit your shots. And what really makes me feel good about where the Bulls are right now, even though they're not all the way where they need to be, is that they can win in a variety of different ways. They can win with offense. They can win with defense. They can win with energy and hustle and second chance points. They can win in a lot of those ways. And that's what you look at a potential championship team needing to do. And the Bulls, as they did here on Wednesday night, found another way to get the job done.